Stocks and self-control. Very interesting concept, right? I was thinking about the whole idea of selling covered calls, of doing options, of being sort of rigorous and not letting your emotions come into play. I think that affects life in general. I'm not saying that people who do well in the stock trading world are great people in real life or successful. As my wife commented reading her book, that there's a guy who invented the equal sign of math, obviously a great mathematician, ended up in debtor prison. Obviously not great with actually finances. They're two separate things. But I think if you look at life as most things are interconnected, related, you start thinking about this idea of sort of self-control, controlling yourself. Because the issue with stocks is usually people don't want to lose. So they just spend more and more money, putting good after bad, if you will. And then they don't want to win less. So they just keep holding it until the stock tanks and they lost or option or whatever it is. And I was thinking of it as a more general concept I realized in a hospital, which is the issue that the vast majority of patients have. The reason that they're not doing as well as they could be is a lack of coping skills. So I don't mean all patients, obviously. There's patients who cope very well, who do very well. But I think in general, most people could be doing better if they had more coping skills. And I think a lot of it is the issue with money if you want to follow the flow of money. So there is no, you know, disincentive for doctors to order less medications in a hospital. It doesn't matter to the doctor. Insurances somehow seem to get paid, the hospital gets paid, everybody's happy, right? But the issue for me is there's a lot of things we know that are bad for you, and yet we do it anyways. Like giving everybody narcotics. We use too many narcotics in this country. Keep you comfortable, great. So is it just accepted that there's side effects every now and then, overdoses every now and then, lots of people who are addicted? Is that a good thing? Is that related to the fact that we use opiates so much in this country? Well, obviously. What are we doing about it? Nothing. I've encountered a few issues recently trying to, talk to people about coping skills. Going back a little bit, somebody had headaches and so it got a lot better and then she's like, but what if I have them at home again? I was like, well, there's a lot of things you could do. A lot of times you try to focus on something else to distract yourself. And I talked about all this mindfulness meditation stuff, and she just looked at me like I were an alien speaking a language that's not even on Earth. So yes, I'll give you some narcotics to go home with. Oh, okay, thank you. You know, people existed before narcotics were invented. People existed before a lot of things were invented, and somehow they survived. And while someone might say, yeah, they didn't survive great, it's like, I don't know about that. I think a lot of times they actually survived great. They felt happier, they did better. And now we're reliant on all these other things, right? Because we sort of have no abilities to do anything ourselves. Our mind is very weak and unable to overcome any bodily issues, shall we say. And I think that's an issue. At least for me, it's an issue, right? Because mind over matter still exists and is more important than ever. And if you think about it, a lot of people do a lot of stuff that other people would say, wow, that's sort of impossible. How do they do that? And while you say it's impossible, it's not actually impossible. It may be impossible for you, but it's not possible for them. And why is it, right? And many people say, well, they're just built differently, they're born differently. And while there may be some truth in that, I think the bigger thing is their minds are different. Their willpower is different. The ability of their mind to tell them, ignore that, is much more powerful than for you or for me. And we don't train that. We don't develop that. We don't even encourage it, right? You're incentivized, which I hate and I do myself, to just say, I have this, fix it for me, doctor. Yes. I'm ordering all these unnecessary tests for a lady. She's very good at manipulating other people, demanding stuff. We do it because it's easier. Do what she wants, hopefully she'll leave. Is that the right solution? I mean, the incentive for me is obvious, right? And the incentive for most other people is obvious. But this is all teaching her the wrong lesson, right? So I think that, the big issue, at least I feel, is are we into taking care of people in the medical field? We talk about wellness, healthy, right? Everybody wants to be healthy. Mission statements of all health organizations to make healthy people. But we do nothing for healthy. Healthiness is not the lack of illness. Healthiness is not the lack of symptoms. Healthiness is feeling good, I would say. There's people who have issues who still feel good. I think that's a hard concept for most patients to understand, and I would dare say even a large minority, even majority of people who work in healthcare. Healthcare, not medical care. We're trying to get you to actually be healthy, to feel good. Wake up and say, hey, let's get on with the day. I have stuff to do, right? I mean, every now and then I remind myself of how sad it is. You know, a lot of doctors are annoyed by patients who want to leave the hospital, and we spend a lot of time and effort getting patients who don't want to leave the hospital to leave the hospital, and so do case managers and nurses and all those people. But the big thing is, what kind of life do they have outside a hospital that they don't want to leave the hospital? For me and most other people, you couldn't pay us enough money to stay in a hospital for days on end. I mean, people go crazy. Why do you want to get woken up at whatever hour it is at 5 a.m. to get your blood drawn? I guess even if they don't have to wake you up, yeah, probably gonna wake up when you feel the stabbing pain in your arm, right? People coming in at odd hours, random people you have no idea who they are. There's no, I guess, regulation that they didn't introduce themselves. You're half asleep anyways, and they do this or that. They put on this, tourniquet on your arm and just squeeze and squeeze and squeeze, and they say, "I've had enough." You're like, "No, no, just wait." It's called a blood pressure cuff. Why do they do these in the middle of the night? Don't ask me. It's routine. The system's not smart enough. When it says every 8 hours, I guess sometimes that 8 hours may fall in the middle of the night. Every 6 hours definitely fall. Every four definitely in the middle of the night. How are you supposed to sleep? How are you supposed to get better? And if you're old, you can't get out of bed without calling. Alarm will go off. It's like you're incompetent of doing any little thing by yourself. Of course, nurses justify it as fall risk. Anyways, the whole point is you just think about what life they have afterwards. And I think about all these patients sitting there. It's like, look, do you have nothing going on in life outside? There's a lady who I feel bad for who just needs some extra help and she's just waiting for placement. And she asks every time I see her, it's like, what's happening? I tell her, unfortunately, you're applying for Medicaid. It takes a long time. But she actually wants to get out. And many other people are fine and comfortable and actually enjoy being there. And isn't that sad? See, I guess I have an opinion that if life isn't great, life isn't worth living. Maybe you're not supposed to say that. Because the modus operandi for the medical profession is, oh, no, 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 no. Everybody's life is great. You're like, that's just not true. Many people's lives are miserable. They're just a step from killing themselves, which is fine because psychiatry doesn't need to see them. The psychiatry is overwhelmed. But here's the issue. They don't really have stuff they're looking forward to in life. They really have stuff that they enjoy. They don't really have long-term goals, not even a 5-month goal. And yet you think they should be positive about life for some odd reason. I was talking to my friend the other day about this. He's a surgeon. Saying, no, no, you don't understand. They do enjoy stuff. They enjoy eating. When you're 400 pounds, right? I think there's a lot of physical activities you can't enjoy, and so you still enjoy eating. But here's the thing. What if you were to lose 200 of those 400 pounds? Would you be able to do activities in life that you would actually enjoy? We have a classmate from residency who literally lost hundreds of pounds. And then you see her doing things like rock climbing. That makes a huge difference in life. I think you can enjoy stuff that you haven't been able to enjoy before. I think your world has literally opened up to you, right? It's like I think about location, context for many patients. Say somebody in Alaska. I think if you were in California, you would be much happier. I mean, I don't have the ability to move you there. The hospitals just pay for you to move to California. It's cheaper than having you in a hospital all the time. I think you'd be much better. You'd fit in better there. People would like you more. It's just a win-win, right? But we don't do that. There's some people who are able to move their lives. Like one guy comes from basically a redneck family. Literally, his family in Canada had an outhouse. His dad was a trucker. Parents were not educated. Only one in his family to go to college. He had moved to Hong Kong. He established an English language school that was doing very well. There's a wait list, and I'm sure he charges through the nose for it. He's excellent at teaching little kids English. We're not talking about fancy English, we're talking about simple things. He comes up with rules, ways of teaching them, like you have multiple adjectives. How do you order them? Well, for me, a native speaker, you just think about it, what sounds correct, and we're usually right. But I guess there's rules that we never learned. Why would we bother? It's just think about it. You got it. Here's the thing though. He found a niche for himself. He has this beautiful place. It's tiny because it's Hong Kong. It's very well designed. In Hong Kong, he's able to afford custom shelves, cabinets, and they have things suitable for all his little knickknacks, spaces for each. Good for him, right? He's not valuable in Canada. Who would hire a guy from the woods who has just a college degree to teach English? Like, I don't think you would qualify in Canada. You also probably can't teach English well in Canada because people there actually sort of know English and they don't need basic English. But he did well moving himself. I mean, that's one way of coping, in my opinion. Coping. Figuring things out, doing stuff for yourself. Using your mind, moving your body if you have to. A lost art, becoming more and more lost. That is more and more important than ever.